Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Ruger-Morowski. I am the Associate Director of Partnerships at Parker Dewey, and I'm glad I get the opportunity today to talk to you about engaging employers. When it comes to micro internships, engaging employers is just as important as engaging your students. So we're going to be giving you some resources and tools to do that today, and talking about exactly why it's beneficial. But before I get too ahead of myself, I want to jump back a little bit and first talk about exactly what Parker Dewey is, especially from the perspective of your employers. We are an experiential recruiting platform. Our goal is to help employers connect with high potential early career talent, and that includes your amazing students. And we do this via micro internships. So these are short term paid professional projects. I'm going to get a little bit more into the weeds about exactly what they are. But what they allow employers to do is get access to some traditionally overlooked candidates. They're reducing bias because they're making decisions based on real work evaluation, and they're generating insights. And that allows employers to build more effective and equitable pipelines. So the end result is stronger hiring outcomes. So we're really not just filling positions, we are helping employers to create a pipeline or a bridge from the college experience your students are currently in to their professional roles. So with that, as promised, a little bit more information about exactly what these micro internships that help us do this are. Already said these are short-term paid professional projects, but digging a little bit deeper, when we say short-term, we mean it. These projects are usually 10 to 40 hours in total. So this works out really nice for those of your students who maybe have really busy schedules. Maybe they're still exploring, so they don't want to jump right into a big commitment. Maybe they're first or second year students who aren't ready for the traditional internship. This works, especially since most are remote, regardless of location, schedule, all those barriers that might be keeping your students from engaging in traditional methods. In that same vein, we highlighted for employers, they're looking for ways to access these demographics. So that's how it meets that challenge. Every single micro internship on the Parker Dewey platform is also paid because we know a lot of students can't afford to spend their time on something unless it's compensated. And these aren't hypotheticals, these aren't simulations, they're real projects. So it makes sense that they're paid. They're also professional projects. So even if it's for first and second year students, they're using skills that they're learning in their degree programs. These can be as basic as communication, research, those types of things, but it demonstrates that your students have professional skills that they're bringing to the table. Something that makes a micro internship is the fact that it's focused on a specific project. So this is not W-2 employment. These are not ongoing responsibilities. These are companies identifying specific needs that allow them to see if a candidate has the skills for a longer term role. So this could be from any range of industries or departments. We've seen projects saying, I need someone to develop an email marketing campaign focused on a specific demographic. We've seen projects that involve coding something. We've seen projects that involve research. We've seen projects that involve data analysis. As long as there's something the micro intern is completing and handing to the company when they're done, it can be a great micro internship. And these projects are posted at all times of year. They're not tied to the academic calendar, which is part of why it is so important for your students to log in regularly. These micro internships typically kick off within a week of being posted. So the more often your students are looking at the platform, the more often they are likely to see projects that are a good fit. And again, this is a recruiting tool. So just to recap, this works because it's allowing companies to access talent they may be missing otherwise, engage them in a meaningful way, assess, would this person be a good fit for our longer term role? And that can really be at any stage in the hiring process. They may be assessing for internship fit, for co-op fit, for full-time role fit. And then the ultimate goal is to take that next step in that recruiting process and to make the hire. So hopefully, the benefits for early career talent are clear, even though I'm kind of focusing on the employer experience. But just to make sure, For early career talent, this is accessible. Since most are remote, even if they don't have transportation, even if they're busy, as long as they have a Wi-Fi connection, they can engage in these. They're getting real experience. They're connecting with a real professional, so they're networking. They're getting to explore careers in a really efficient way without having to jump right into a long-term commitment. They get to add the experience to their resume or portfolio as an independent contractor of Parker Dewey. A lot of companies, again, are using this as a recruiting tool. So there's that possibility of longer term engagements if the project allows them to realize, wow, maybe I never heard of this company before, but this actually is a really good fit. And again, all projects are paid. We're also seeing some really nice outcomes for your students in terms of the impact of these projects on their career readiness. So we're defining career readiness the same way that NACE does with the career readiness competencies. So those are what you see on your screen. So what we're seeing from recent micro interns is the most common response across all of these competencies after completing a micro internship is feeling that the experience helped them improve a lot. And as you can see from the chart, even if they don't feel like they changed in terms of ability, they're more likely to report that they built confidence related to that competency than they are to say that there was no change at all. And for all of us who have worked with students, I was in career services before I joined the Parker Dewey team. I think we're all aware of the significant impact that confidence alone can have on internship and job searches. Now, on the flip side of things, for companies, again, I hope that those benefits were clear, but just really want to make sure I'm spelling them out. It is really easy. Companies can post these micro internships literally within 5 minutes. We have a whole library of templates. It allows companies a no commitment, really low risk way to audition talent. These companies are spending a lot of times a lot of money, a lot of time on just their traditional internship programs. So if they can use a micro internship to figure out, well, is this person a good fit before they even get to the internship stage? That is saving them some significant costs, especially when you take that one step further and think about the full-time hire. Companies don't have to wait. They can post these at any time of year. We talked about the reasons why it's cost effective, why it helps them build a more effective and expansive talent pipeline. And we're also seeing that because these projects are project-based and so focused on something specific, one of the benefits is when students are looking at opportunities, they're not going into the platform saying, oh, I want to do something with XYZ company. They're going to the platform saying, okay, this is a project with data analysis. Do I have that skill? Am I interested in applying that skill? So they're looking more at the project and less at the company. So for those companies that really don't have that brand awareness yet, this is a great way to make students and recent graduates aware of the type of work your company does and your company in general. It's a great way for companies to access those demographics we talked about that aren't always able to engage in traditional recruiting methods. Again, it's a great way to audition for those longer term opportunities. So this is just one example of how a company who is looking to hire for a specific longer term role can use micro internships to audition for the skills that are going to be necessary. So if they're looking for a data marketer, that data marketer is going to need to know how to gather, analyze, and report data. They're going to need to have some knowledge of content strategy and marketing initiatives. They're going to be able to need to articulate and communicate recommendations based on that information. So there are a number of different projects that a company could post to see, does a potential candidate have the skills to be a good fit? Data cleanup and visualization, that's a specific short-term project that they can use as a test. Same for content performance reporting or competitive campaign analysis. With these short, specific projects, before a company ever even extends a longer-term offer, they are getting to see, does this person have the skills I need for them to be successful in this role? And it's also a really nice way for the candidate to see, do I enjoy doing this kind of work? Is the real world application of this like I thought it would be? We're also seeing some really nice longer term outcomes for companies that use micro internships. When it comes to recent graduates overall, we're seeing that less than half are staying in their first full-time role for over a year, whereas those who have completed micro internships are more aware of themselves and their skills and where they fit. Sometimes that's with the company that they engaged in a micro internship. Sometimes the micro internship itself allows them to quickly understand this isn't actually the fit I thought it was going to be. And they're able to take that knowledge and find something that is going to allow them to grow and flourish for longer. We are also seeing, again, cost effectiveness. When companies aren't making the wrong hire for the traditional internship or the full-time role, there is significant savings there. So lots of really great long-term benefits for companies. And I know you said, I'm looking at the poll, a lot of you are looking to address some of those challenges that we're seeing in these data micro internships address, making that conversion, lowering renegs, getting support. Micro internships are doing all those things. So why should you share these micro internships with your employers? By highlighting this as a recruiting tool, you're supporting your employers and helping them connect with your talent that may be struggling to get their foot in the door. It's also a great way to help your employers enhance their involvement in your current activities. So, we're going to talk today about things like incorporating micro internships into your employer's career fair strategies or your partnership options. Really makes these things more valuable. It allows you to deepen relationships with existing employer partners. You are offering them the benefit of this amazing tool that helps them accomplish what they're looking to do. It can also be a great way to engage employers who aren't already recruiting on your campus. So, if they are trying to prepare to build an internship program, or if they already have one, but they're not engaging your students yet, the micro internship is a step to say, well, do this first, see our talent in action, recognize how great it is, so they can build up to that formal internship program, continuing to use micro internships as a pipeline. That's something I want to make sure I'm very clear about. Micro internships are not designed to replace traditional internships. They're designed to make them more valuable for both sides. And engaging employers leads to more opportunities for your students. So, directly to speak to that, with Parker Dewey, companies get to decide who sees their projects when the company is funding their own projects. And that's the model the majority of the time. So, in the last 12 months, we have seen that about 43% of our projects, the companies decide to leave open to all. They are open to talent from anywhere. What that means is more than half of the projects that were kicked off in the last year did ultimately decide that they wanted to feature projects to specific schools. And we're seeing companies who are doing this for a variety of reasons. A lot of them using it as a recruiting tool are focusing maybe to local schools. Even though the project is typically remote, they are being very intentional about engaging talent that could do an in-person internship in the near future. Some of them are featuring projects just based on pre-existing relationships with school. Some are desiring to hire from a niche program, so they know that you have students in your specific program that have the skills they're looking for. So they might decide, I don't want to see candidates from other schools. I just want to see from your institution. And a big one is just awareness that that school's students are using Parker Dewey. Another is program funding. We'll talk about programs, but sometimes we have schools who either get grants or donations, and they decide that they want to fund projects for whatever employers you decide. It could be based on industry, location. Maybe you want to fund projects for your alumni. Those projects, if you're paying for them, obviously are only going to be available to your students. But those are a variety of reasons why companies ultimately end up featuring projects to specific schools. So the headline here is make sure that your employers know your students are using Parker Dewey. They're just more likely to have project needs if they already recruit from your institution that align with what your students are studying. If you let them know about it, they're more likely to include your school when they're featuring projects. So employer engagement really makes it so there are more opportunities for your students to see. And just to really highlight that, what we have here is a comparison. On the left in the green, you have a school that is consistently promoted to employers, a public college. On the right, you see a school that really hasn't promoted to employers. This is a public college in the same state, but you can see the drastic difference in outcomes. So we can see the school in green, they're driving traffic to their employer-facing page. They're having companies that are creating accounts from that page. Their students are getting selected. They're earning thousands of dollars doing micro internships. They're getting feedback from these companies about their career readiness and their skills. There's a lot of career value in this. compared to the school that isn't promoting. They didn't really put their employer page out there at all. So if it's not out there, it's not going to get traffic, and companies aren't going to create pages from it. They're not going to know that your students are active, so they're less likely to feature projects, and your students are really missing out on those opportunities. Now, that's not to say that no students will ever be selected if you're not engaging employers. You can see one was picked, but it's just not going to be as effective. So now that we've talked about all the reasons why it is important to share micro internships with your employers and all the benefits, I want to spend the rest of our time talking about how to share this and giving you resources to really make it easy. So the first step of that is making sure that you all are equipped with the information about Parker Dewey and the tools to share. So we've talked about the benefits, but here are the specific things that you can share out to help companies understand those benefits. And the first is going to be your employer-focused landing page. So on that comparison slide, when I was talking about the views to the page from the school who had promoted versus no views to the schools who hadn't, this is the page I was referring to. Every Parker Dewey partner gets a page that looks like this that allows you to share this with your employers. If you already have your student-facing page, it's going to be connected up here at the top. You can easily go back and forth between your student-facing page and your employer-facing page. But this allows you to explain to companies very easily. This is what micro internships are in a quick video. For a lot of folks, that'll be enough to get them to create that account. There's no cost for your employers to create the account. They are only invoiced for the cost of their project when they select their micro intern. If they need more information, this lets them know what to expect, how it works, and if they want to connect with the Parker Dewey team directly, they have that resource down here. We also give them examples of a couple projects they could post and the direct link if they want to post something custom. So to sum up, this page is going to be your best friend when you are promoting Parker Dewey to your employers. Just to backtrack a little bit, look at the difference between our partners who are sharing with employers and driving traffic to those pages versus our employers who are not sharing those pages out. Now, if you already have a Parker Dewey page, you may notice, well, this looks a little bit different, or you may notice that your page looks a little bit different. We have recently done some testing to see what information, what layout, what format is most likely to drive your employers to take that next step. We've done the same thing for student-facing pages too. So your URL may have recently changed. So do not worry, your old URLs are redirecting to the new one. So nobody is going to click on any pages and get lost, but you will eventually want to make sure that you are updating those URLs just so that redirect doesn't have to do that work. So this is a page, again, since there's a lot of value in getting it out there, that should be shared in a lot of places. It should be shared in the employer-facing page on your website. Wherever you have information about recruiting, this page should be linked there. Whenever companies are reaching out to you saying, hey, we're interested in recruiting your talent, the link to this page should be included in that response. If you're having employers on campus to talk about your recruiting options, this page should be something you have a QR code to. Really, again, anywhere that you are sharing information with recruiters. And we have a partner checklist to make this really easy. Everywhere that we are recommending that you share this page, we have templates. So we have language for you to introduce. We have a single slide template so you can add it to your presentations, really trying to make it simple for you to share this page out. We also have content in other formats. Again, the goal is to make it easy for you to share. So often with employers, the biggest challenge to helping them make use of Parker Dewey micro internships is helping them understand, well, where exactly do these micro internships fit? If I'm already doing an internship program, if I'm already doing a co-op program, why should I be doing micro internships too? So this helps your employers to understand how this is going to make those programs even more effective, both in terms of cost and in terms of outcomes. So when they say, well, I want more of your students to know who we are and about our opportunities, we've talked about how micro internships, because they're focused on the project, students are more willing to say, well, I'm interested in this work, so it doesn't really matter if I know the company. It allows them to engage those candidates that maybe they aren't able to engage in the traditional ways. It allows them to demonstrate the value of on-campus recruiting efforts. Again, we're going to talk about how you incorporate these into career fairs, how it allows them to engage talent earlier. So it really breaks down a lot of the ways we've already covered that it makes their recruiting efforts they're already doing with your campus more valuable. And we also have employer success stories. Some folks just really like to see how other companies have done it first. So if you're speaking with an employer who says, that sounds great, but does it really work? I want to see the proof of concept. We have employer success stories from large companies, startup companies, companies from all different types of industries about how micro internships have been able to support them with their unique recruiting challenges. So this is another resource in your arsenal to be able to share with employers to highlight this really works. This can help you with the things you're trying to accomplish. We also have additional resources in our Parker Dewey Plus option. So a lot of our partners are at the basic option, and that continues to exist. It's no cost. You are able to request your data once a year, but you do need to complete the steps on those partnership checklists to be able to access that data. Some of those are changes from our previous basic model. Basically, we just want to make sure that when you request your data, there are exciting things to see in it. So that's why we're asking you to complete the steps on that checklist. We've done a lot of research and reviewing the data to show that if you're doing those things, you're going to see outcomes, and we want to make sure the data reflects the full potential of our partnership. With Parker Dewey Plus, you don't need to wait to complete those checklists. You can actually get access to your data on demand. So this is a $2,000 a year subscription, and this allows you to see not only your student engagement data that's included in your annual report if you're at the basic level, but with Parker Dewey Plus, you're also able to see your employer engagement data. So if you want to know, are employers creating account from our pages? Are employers ever posting projects where they're explicitly posting for our students? What are the current featured projects? What are the open to all? In the last 12 months, which companies have engaged our students? All that information is easily accessible through your Parker Dewey Plus dashboard. Parker Dewey Plus also includes an impact report that allows you to see the last 12 months. So that's going to include any feedback companies have left. New, it's also going to include any feedback your students have left about the experience. Did they find it valuable? Did this lead to a longer term opportunity? What were some of the other outcomes? And school specific data related to that career readiness slide that we showed earlier. You're also able to see some aggregate demographic data. So it's going to show you both the demographics of your students and recent graduates who've created accounts, and it'll also show you the demographics for those who have been selected. Something we are very proud of at Parker Dewey is over 80% of micro interns who are selected. And I want to be clear, that's selected and actually do micro internships, not just those who create accounts. Over 80% of them come from historically underrepresented populations in the workforce. So this is a really great way to have that data on demand and highlight to decision makers, Parker Dewey is helping us support those demographics that are often struggling to get their foot in the door. I know I'm showing a lot of linked resources in these slides, so I also want to make it clear as I'm doing this, these slides will be sent afterwards, so you'll be able to access all the resources, click all the buttons when you get them later. Something else that you might want to do is consider a program. So kind of did a high-level overview before. Still going to be a pretty high-level overview on this slide. Basically, with a program, schools can decide if you want to cover the costs for projects that are exclusively available to your students. So again, we've used or had partners use this in a variety of different ways. Sometimes partners have said, you know what, we will cover the costs for projects that are exclusively available to a specific segment of our population. Or we'll cover the costs for projects for companies in a specific industry. We just want to create more opportunities for our students in that area. Other schools have decided to cover the costs for alumni as kind of a thank you for their engagement in a way to help students build relationships with those alumni mentors based around something specific and meaningful. There are a lot of different ways you could use a program. In fact, enough different ways that we have got an entire hour webinar about it. So if you are interested in that and you want to explore further, I'll put the link to that in the chat right now. We're going to be having our next session on that topic on June 18th. To be clear, the goal of these programs is not that you are funding these projects in perpetuity. The goal is, well, that very last barrier, the fact that there's a little bit of cost, is taken down and it encourages companies to try it. And once they try it and they see the value and the impact, the goal is to have them fund their own projects in the future. So we have talked about just making sure you're aware of all these different ways that you can be sharing Parker Dewey. Now I want to talk about some specific ways that you can make these connections happen. And one of them is to invite us to connect with your employers at things that you already have going on. So we have a lot of partners who schedule some really great employer events. You've got an audience there who is engaged, who has raised their hands and said, I want to engage with your talent. That is a great time to have a member of the Parker Dewey team pop in and explain some of this information about how micro internships benefit their employer activities, benefit their recruiting pipeline. So, if you have an event coming up, you're going to have employers there. We don't need a lot of time. We can do a 15-minute presentation. We could do a half-hour presentation. We could do a 20-minute. If you want to give us 5 minutes, we'll figure out a way to make it work in 5 minutes. But consider having someone from the team virtually pop in and explain how they can use this. Another great resource that you'll want to consider sharing us with is your local chambers of commerce and workforce development orgs. These folks are often looking for ways to get local talent to recognize the opportunities that are right there in their area. And micro internships are a fantastic way to do that. So if you have relationships, if you just want to make an introduction, or if there's going to be a meeting and there's an opportunity for you to suggest a guest speaker, keep Parker Dewey in mind. We'd love to explain to your chambers of commerce how this can benefit them as well. If you have entrepreneurship or small business centers, they're another great resource to share micro internships with. Now, I want to be clear, micro internships really do benefit companies of all sizes. For large companies and established companies, this is a fantastic way to engage talent earlier, to help students who maybe have heard of the company but don't understand what they do move past preconceived notions because they're seeing examples of the projects or the type of work on the platform. So it's really valuable for those large employers who are trying to build pipelines to their internship programs. It's also available for those smaller organizations that are trying to build brand. And it's really helpful too for those entrepreneurs or small businesses that need help but really just don't have the bandwidth or the budget for a traditional internship program. So that's where introduce us to your entrepreneurship centers, your small business centers, and we'll explain how this can be a way to maybe ramp up to a traditional internship program, or if that's just not an option in the near future, at least they're able to engage via micro internships. Another option, kind of flipping it, we just covered the options of how you can invite us to connect with your employers. This is covering more how you can invite your employers to connect with us. We have a whole host of regularly scheduled events that they can come to learn more about the benefits of micro internships. And we're also happy to do events specifically for your employers. So a lot of our partners prefer this option because if we're highlighting just to your employers, we can speak a little bit to the types of opportunities that tend to be of most interest to your employers because they align with what your students are studying. And we also make it super duper clear how they can feature projects exclusively to your students. Now, to be fair, it's pretty intuitive. Every company that posts a project is going to see the option. But when we're hosting a webinar for your employers, we just make sure that they know from the outset, if this school has invited you to learn about micro internships, did you know that you can feature projects exclusively to this school? If you would like to host a webinar for your employers, we're going to have a poll at the end, so please make sure you stick around. We're going to ask you about what options you're interested in. So if you'd like to do that, please indicate it in the poll that we're going to have. All we ask of you is to commit to inviting at least 1,000 employer or even alumni points of contact. Now we know not 1,000 will register or show up, but we just want to make sure we're ensuring a decent audience by having that minimum. But we encourage you, if you're doing one of these webinars, invite as wide of an employer audience as possible. We make this very easy because we set up the registration page, we set up the email invitations, we set up the presentation itself. So all you need to do is share what we create for you. You can also invite your employers to connect directly with the Parker Dewey team. You all know your employers, and some of your most engaged ones just may not want to come to a webinar. They might be the type who says, I want to ask my questions one-on-one. I just prefer that format, and that's okay. We are happy to connect with your employers. So if you've got an employer who is great about engaging your students, but you just know they're going to want to talk to somebody one-on-one, we've got an email template. You can let them know this is how you can connect with the Parker Dewey team. This is how you can ask your questions. This is how you can get that one-on-one support. Oh, I see we've got a question. What are some best practices for sharing with alumni to post micro internships? Which is a great question. I've got some tips and resources near the end of the presentation. So just want to highlight that I do see that in the chat and we are going to get there. Um, Oh, I see a question about our DeLuca program. So the funding for DeLuca just wrapped up. I know we extended it for a lot of time. There are some very unique circumstances where it might still be an option, but for the most part, that funding has now closed. Now, something exciting for our folks who are eligible for the DeLuca program. And if you are not aware of the DeLuca program and you're going, what is she talking about? The DeLuca program was a program that allowed companies to have their costs covered, but it was specifically available to students from specific schools. So that included schools in the state of Florida, in the state of Connecticut, any HBCUs, and any HSI that is a member of the HSI Career Collaborative. So to recap, Florida schools, Connecticut schools, HBCUs, HSI Career Collaborative. If any of those are you, even though the funding is no longer covering the projects, what you can do still is get Parker Dewey Plus access. So backtracking a little bit, that DeLuca funding not only was covering projects, but for any of those eligible schools, you can get Parker Dewey Plus access still. That goes through May of 2026. So there's also going to be at the poll at the end and in the follow-up email, if you want to connect with Parker Dewey, if you fall into one of those categories and you're like, wait, I didn't know about this, I want to get more information, schedule a meeting and we'll be happy to share. Now, one of the unique circumstances where folks could still use DeLuca funding, and we're going to get to this, is if an employer wants to use a student ambassador micro internship as part of a sponsorship package. And you're probably thinking, okay, what exactly is that? I promise we will get to there. So invite your employers to connect with the Parker Dewey team. We have monthly overview webinars. So if someone's like, okay, sounds good, but I just want to learn more, these are only a half hour. We have easy to use email templates to invite your employers. And we have, a range of different types of events. We often have state of campus recruiting webinars. We do rotating topics based on early career talent recruiting. So these are really beneficial for recruiters to come to. They're beneficial for you to come to. So if you're a partner, keep an eye out on our timely content. We're going to talk about that here in a second too, but we'll always have details about these events. We've done a series talking about how micro internships benefit specific demographics. You may want to check that out as well. And if you're going, wait, how am I supposed to know about these? Please reach out to schools@parkerdewey.com. We are happy to add you to our email list. We're just trying not to bombard people unless they actually are points of contact. So just reach out and say, hey, I want to know what's happening with Parker Dewey events. We will be happy to get you added. You will get a monthly email with all this information. So an example of one of these recent events that is very focused to your employers. We recently closed and analyzed the data for our student sentiments on campus recruiting. Once a year, we reach out to our student network and we say, what are you seeing? What do you wish you were seeing? Really just how do you want to be recruited by employers? And there's some really valuable insights in the feedback we got from students. So this is something that would be really great for you to share with employers. Again, you'll get that link to watch the replay, but if you want to check it out earlier, I will go ahead and put that in the chat. Gen Z's rules for hiring. And I think it's helpful for us to know too. We actually asked some questions this year, and by us, I mean folks in higher ed. I still count myself. We asked some questions about what do you wish you were seeing from your career center? So if that's of interest to you, please make sure that you check out that replay. So as promised, timely Parker Dewey content. We know we're sharing a lot of different resources here and that it can be hard for partners to keep track of all of them. So something we do for our partners, if you're on that email list, is we are sending you content once a month to say, here is content that is timely for right now. So this is a good time to share it, and here's how to do so. So you can always see our most recent content here if for some reason you didn't get the email, if IT is struggling with whitelisting Parker Dewey for you. But this is an example of content we sent out in May. So in May, we had right at the top, this is something to share with you all, share with your colleagues. We did a webinar that really dug into the data of micro internship success. So that slide we had a while ago where we said, compare the impact of a school who has promoted to employers versus a school who has not promoted to employers. That was from that data-driven best practices webinar. So if you're interested in things like that, how often micro interns who are getting selected are logging in, the persistence of micro interns, how many they're applying to before they get selected, all those types of things were covered in that webinar. So we highlighted that as content we would love for you to check out. We also highlighted a special offer in that webinar. If you are not already aware of it, any of our partners who complete the partner checklist by September 15th of this year. And again, those partner checklists, we'll link to them at the end of these slides as well. They're just really summarizing a lot of what we're encouraging you to do in this webinar. So anyone who completes it by September 15th and submits a data request with proof of completion, you can actually get Parker Dewey Plus access. So that means on-demand data for students and employers and that impact report. And I haven't really talked about it yet, but you can also see your student profiles in their applications. So all of that, typically the $2,000 subscription, you can have it for free through the rest of 2025. So takeaway, get to work on those checklists. We'd love for you to enjoy that access. So that's the first thing we share with colleagues. But again, these employers or these emails, and you can see them here too, as non-emails, as blog posts, but it also gives you timely content to share with employers. So I know I just shared that recent event, the Gen Z's new rules for hiring. So we highlighted that here before the event happened, saying share this with your employers. And we make it easy. We give you email templates. We allow you to share it on LinkedIn very easily. And then every month we also do a student newsletter. So we give you that content too. So you can read and share on LinkedIn and see what recommendations we are sharing with your students as well. We also give you the in case you missed it content. Hey, here's what we recommended last month. A lot of the time it's still relevant. So this was a LinkedIn post we encourage y'all to share with employers. This gave them a white paper on how they can really improve their experiential recruiting habits. Same thing with the previous newsletter and anything else we might want you to share with colleagues. So if you are at a partner school, you want to make sure you're added to this list. Again, just email us at schools@parkerdewey.com. It makes it really, really easy for you to accomplish the steps on that checklist. One of the steps is sharing a piece of employer-facing content on LinkedIn and tagging a few employers. You don't have to do that from scratch. Just share the post that we send to you via email at least once a year. That's one step on that checklist done. Or send an email about it. That's another step on that checklist done. So this is one of the things I've also alluded to a couple of times, the partnership packages. So we are seeing a trend with our partners, and we love this trend, where y'all are establishing partnerships. Sometimes they're attached to sponsorship that have something to do with the career fair. Sometimes they are standalone partnerships, just opportunities, whether this company is coming to your career fair or not, for them to brand themselves on your institution. And what better way to build their brand on your campus than to have a student micro intern help them do the job? So this is encouraging you in those packages to have a micro internship, a student ambassador micro internship, be a part of the package. So what that means is each partner company, so let's say Google is one of your sponsorship partners or one of your employer partners, they would get to select one of your students for a 10-hour micro internship, and then that student is connecting with a professional at that company. They're saying, okay, what types of opportunities are you trying to promote? What types of students are you trying to reach? And then that student is spreading the word. They could do this via social media posts, just conversations with their peers, brief presentations in classes or their extracurricular club meetings. And it takes a small percentage of whatever the cost of your package is. So let's say you have a $1,000 sponsorship set up. So employers can purchase, here are all these ways we'll market you for $1,000. So the bulk of that is still going to you, the school. $200 would end up in the micro intern's pocket because, like any other micro internship, they get paid. And like any other micro internship, there is that 10% of the total cost that goes to Parker Dewey, but that's really minimal compared to the value that you are giving that company. So the company is getting brand building. They're getting authenticity because it's coming from a student in that experience. They're coming from a student who has heard about these opportunities. They're getting engagement. At the very least, they're getting engagement from that micro intern. But we've seen, as long as they're hiring students who are involved, that these students can have a really big impact. So slightly different, but we recently had a school in Kansas who hired a student ambassador micro intern, not to promote a specific company, but to promote Parker Dewey micro internships in general. From the time this girl got started to when she was wrapping up, the number of micro internships that had selected micro interns from that school literally tripled. So having a student spread the word can lead to some really nice outcomes. That micro intern is benefiting, they're getting paid, they're getting experience promoting something, and we know promoting something is a skill, and they're connecting with a professional at that company. So maybe that micro intern themselves is going to be that company's next great hire. And then for you as an institution, what a great way to help your partner package stand out. You mean if I become a partner with your school, that I automatically get a micro intern who's going to help me spread the word to their peers? That's a really nice incentive for companies to take advantage of your partnership or sponsorship packages. Uh, it's a win for you to get the student opportunity, and it's a win for you to make these employers happy. So this is something that we highly encourage. And going back to the question about DeLuca earlier, if you are a DeLuca eligible school and you have a partnership or a sponsorship package and you would like to include a student ambassador in those packages, you can do that and have the cost covered by the DeLuca program. So again, we are going to have a poll here at the end, whether you're a DeLuca eligible school or not. And for those who maybe weren't paying attention earlier, I know that's how I am in webinars. DeLuca eligible schools, Florida schools, Connecticut schools, any HBCU, HSIs who are a member of the HSI Career Collaborative. Indicate in the poll that you'd like to have a conversation about this. We will go into the details. And again, even if you're not a DeLuca eligible school and you're interested in this, we'd love to help you get set up. It really is a win for everybody. You can also intentionally include micro internships in career fair planning. So we have seen companies who have used micro internships and promoted micro internships at their booth as kind of a very quick and actionable next step that really draws interest from candidates. Because a lot of times when they're coming to these career fairs, we know I used to do it. We're all encouraging our first and second year students to go to the fair and make connections. But oftentimes these companies don't have opportunities that are fit for those students, and it can be a little uncomfortable or awkward. They're coming up, it's great to have a chat, but there's no actionable next steps. With micro internships, you could do a micro internship based on very basic research, but it gives those first or second year students an opportunity to engage with that company right away. It's also a great way, if you have a student, the summer internship is a ways away, engage that candidate that you're really excited about, or encourage your employers to engage that candidate that they're really excited about. Basically, it's just a way to enhance the value of the career fair that they're already attending. And we all know we want the employers at our career fair, we want them to have a great experience. So make sure they're thinking about this as an option to help themselves stand out on that career fair floor. We also have some resources just to keep you up to date on things. Again, we're letting you know about these things in the monthly partner content emails, but it also doesn't hurt for you to give them a follow. We actually have two LinkedIn pages. On our employer-facing LinkedIn page, that's where you're going to find a lot of content like what we're discussing today, how this helps employers. If we've got programs that might allow companies to try this for free, we announce our new partnerships there so companies can see, oh, I didn't know that school was partnering with Parker Dewey. Let me post some projects for those students, those types of things. On our student-facing page, and that's where a lot of you have probably gotten invitations from me to follow, that's where you're going to see content that is more student-facing. So we're encouraging you to share it for the benefit of your students, reminders about our student-facing events. You'll see success stories from micro-interns on both pages. We find it's great for companies to see and encouraging for your students to see. So encourage you to give, depending on your goals, one or both a follow. And if you're looking for something specific, you want something to pop into a newsletter, you want a sign that you can put out, you want a different kind of flyer, we have so much content in our marketing toolkit. So you can check that out at any time. Again, we're going to highlight what we think is most relevant at any given time of year in those monthly emails, but there is a lot just backlogged there that you could use at any time of year. So going back to that question we saw earlier, what are best practices for engaging alumni? Often, alumni are going to have similar goals to employers. They just have an extra affinity for your students. So your alumni that has gone on to build their own business, or your alumni that now works for a larger company, maybe they just need some extra hands, or maybe your alumni work in HR or recruiting, they're able to benefit from these micro internships just the way that any other partner would, but as an alumni, they're just a little bit more likely to feature those projects exclusively to your students. So just make sure that you're spreading the word. A lot of our employer-facing content can easily be adjusted to make it more focused towards alumni, and we've seen that have some great outcomes. So I'm sorry it's not anything, well, I guess it's good it's not anything super complex, but to the question that was asked, take this employer-facing content that we've shared, put in one line about making a meaningful impact or connecting with students from your alma mater, and most of it will work just the same way. Another audience that you'll want to engage, or we encourage you to engage, is faculty, both because of the relationships they have with your students, but also because they often have relationships with employers, and they have those relationships where they're just a little bit more connected than some of us might be in the career center. So if faculty are sharing this with your employers, that tends to be really impactful as well. We have a faculty launch toolkit that has an email template that you can send out to your faculty to make sure that they are aware. We also do a webinar a couple times a year specifically for faculty and staff. A lot of you in the room today, oh, love, you included in a few alumni newsletters. Love to hear that too. But we try to hit that sweet spot with the faculty webinars where it's maybe right after the semester has ended, like we did one in May, but folks haven't totally checked out for the summer yet. I think our next one might be in early August, but don't quote me on that. Nope, we're waiting until December 16th. But if you're here today and you're like, you know what, early August would be great for our employers, email me, put it in the chat. We can add another one to the calendar. So for engaging alumni, I know I said things aren't super complicated, but we do have a couple pieces of content that are specified for that. So if you're looking for new ways to engage alumni and you don't even want to have to think about, well, how do I customize this? Or how do I pull it kind of those alumni warm and fuzzies for engaging our students? This content is already written with that purpose. And with that, folks, we are coming full circle. So I know I've referenced this poll a few times. Let me actually launch the poll. We have talked about a lot of different ways to make your employers aware of micro internships. So what we have in this poll are a few of the options that we've talked about that we should collaborate together to make happen. So if you are not a Parker Dewey partner yet, let us know if you're interested in establishing a new partnership. If you want to host one of those webinars where, again, we make it very clear from the jump how companies can post projects exclusively for your students, and we make it super easy. We put everything together. Indicate that in the poll. If you have an event in mind that you're thinking, well, maybe it'd be good to invite Parker Dewey to that, put that in the poll. None of these things, by the way, are obligations. It's not like if you fill out the poll, you must do that thing. But filling out the poll just lets us know to follow up. If you are interested in incorporating micro internships into your partner or sponsorship packages, indicate that in the poll. Again, this is a big win for everybody. One of your students is guaranteed to get an experience and connect with that company. The company is getting authentic brand building on your campus. You are getting an extra incentive for those companies to commit to those partner programs or sponsorship packages. And if you're from a Duluth eligible school, you're not even taking any of the cost out of the sponsorship package to pay for it. You can actually have that covered. So if that is of interest, make sure you indicate that in the poll. If you're interested in upgrading to Parker Dewey Plus, or if you just want to learn more about that partnerships offer, where if you complete the checklists, indicate that in the poll. And if you're interested in a program, put that in there too. We know we covered a lot. So if you're like, hey, I just want to talk with someone one-on-one to kind of like hash out how I'm feeling about everything, you could certainly do that too. Right now, I see only 27% of you have participated in the poll. So please, if you're interested in any of those options, we would love to help you take the next steps. And a reminder too, these partner checklists make it really easy for you to do a lot of the things we've talked about today. There are templates, there's next steps, there's information. So the last slide of this presentation has links to all the resources we covered today. But if you want it to be really simplified, we recommend checking out our partner checklist. And with that, folks, we now have time for some questions. Please feel free to put those in the chat. I see we've got a hand raised. So as we get those questions going, or before we dig into them rather, just want to say thank you so much for being with us through this presentation. I hope that it was helpful. I'm looking forward to digging into those questions and really just helping your employers take advantage of this because it is just such a win for your employers, for your students, for you. We are making that college to career jump, and we're so excited to be a part of it.